now. Maybe that's better. Yeah, I think you can hear me now. Okay, hey guys, what's up, everyone? Obviously, I'm in a new location, so um, we had a wild week last week. The Be the wild day today. I think it's going as expected. I think um, the tariffs are really neither here nor there, even though it's all anybody can talk about. A little bit of that is just myopia and sorry, one second. You guys distract me. So a little. I'm going to just start with some general comments, and then we can go look at some stocks. I didn't miss the crazy morning. I was on Godel. Um, there's a lot of things to think about here. Obviously, we haven't had a real trade war in forever. Um, I think that there is this question about whether the deficit rubber would have to hit the road, and I think that rubber is hitting pretty clearly. So ultimately, you know, um, one of the ways to think about a $27 trillion deficit is in a confiscatory way, which obviously I don't think anybody wants to think about it that way. But let's say you had a $27 trillion deficit, and you wanted to solve that because every year it seems to be going up, and there's no way to solve it through politics as usual. There's entitlements that are hard to break. There's tax revenue that's hard to increase. It's already fairly high. How do we solve this problem? Well, we have these unilateral tariffs that are placed on us, but we don't really have them on others. Although, regardless of what the real story is, we still need to close that $27 trillion gap. So, one of the ways that you could do that is to look at all the assets in the world, which is probably pretty good common ground to start from. If you start with that, you can work your way backwards. So there's only $400 trillion of wealth, period. Okay? So there's 27 trillion we need, and 400, period. Now we could grow into that somehow, but confiscating the assets is a little simpler. And if you think about that $400 trillion of assets, how much of it do we own, and how much of it do we sort of have auspices over? So I think we own, or household wealth is around 100 trillion, and the auspices probably cast a shadow. The U.S. sort of cast a shadow over, another 100 or 200 trillion. So the theory is, let's say the number is 300 trillion. We basically have to take 10% of that and pay off the deficit with it. And the way you can take it is you can do it in a wild, aggressive, hostile way, which nobody wants to see. You could raise taxes, dramatically, or you could just simply, tariff. And I think that was the solution that was chosen to solve the fiscal problems of the country. And so if we tariff that $300 trillion base of assets that we have sort of control over, we can roughly, get a sense for, doing that, say, 1% a year for 10 years, and our deficit would be closed, assuming we can get to budget neutrality in the meantime. So that's sort of one way to do it. Another way to do it is to grow your way out of it. If the 400 trillion is growing, you can, tariffs are, basically a form of tax. So there's only two ways out of it, which is lower your spending or raise your revenue. And tariffs is just sort of a modified form of taxation. Instead of taxing income, you're taxing sort of trade. But in any event, the other way is to grow the base. If we go from 400 trillion to 800 trillion, sort of half your problem is solved. that way. And I feel like one way to do that is through AI. Another way is through all kinds of other things, just simply growth. And politicians of the past have been willing to borrow from the future and trust that that growth is going to outstrip that deficit. Some of the swamp creatures I know, some of the deep state people that I have had the pleasure of being friends with, their goal is just to make sure that the rate of borrowing is outstripped by the rate of growth, and that eventually those two will cross, and that the spending that we take is an investment in essence on an investment in our people, like things like healthcare, entitlements like that, are in essence investments in future growth. That hasn't really played out that well. Growth seems to be driven by people like Elon Musk and Sam Altman more than it seems to be triggered by the average person being a little healthier through Medicare and Medicaid. So in any event, that's sort of what I think is going on there. I don't think it matters that much for U.S. equities. And you might say, Martin, well, everyone's talking about it. How could it not matter? Or are you stupid? And I'd say, no, you're stupid. The basic premise here is that if you arrange a bunch of plywood, dry wood, I'm not an expert in forestry, but something very combustible, and you put it on the floor and you say, well, there's matches here, there's gasoline there, there's friction over here, and you're surprised that a fire starts. You shouldn't be surprised. The reality is that the market, after being up 20% in 2 years in a row, roughly 40%, there's sort of a bunch of dry, combustible wood there ready for a fire. And anyone striking a match will set ablaze, a very big conflagration. And so, the tariffs did that, and there's no doubt about that. But, we had this blaze, these plywood arranged for quite some time. We arranged some with quantum computing. We arranged some with meme coins. We arranged some with MicroStrategy. We arranged some even with good companies like Palantir. We arranged some all across the board. And so, by sort of arranging that plywood and stacking it high and making sure the room was super dry and there was lots of matches lying around, nobody should be surprised that there's a fire. Nevertheless, the news has to do something and the market has to do something, and that's fine. And a little panic can be very healthy. So, here we are. And again, the mission remains the same: buy good stocks, short bad ones, and you will win. And I think we're winning. Do you feel like you're winning? So, oh yeah, you guys can guess where I am at. So yeah, we'll log into the 30K account in a second. I've lost my password, so I have to go download Thinkorswim and all that, and I have to pretty nice opportunity actually to short IonQ and D-Wave and Rigetti. So I really do want to log into that account. Our Nvidia rebounded a little bit, so we bought that at 93 on Friday, and we even bought HIMS. So I might want to sell out of those and short. Oh, okay. I have so many investment accounts, I'm not sure which to log into. Give me a minute. Yeah, I mean, these stocks were down last week, so a little rally is not unexpected. You see there's some rally in a bunch of things. SPYs are up now, 30 basis points, kind of incredible. Let me see here. Okay, that's loading. We made a lot of updates to Godel, so I'm happy to show you that. So like one example, I don't know if you guys can see the screen well, but let's look at some S&P 500 stocks. So here's Microsoft, $359. I do EM, this is a new function, and this is my favorite because on Bloomberg, the legacy system that we're replacing, because they banned us, EM is probably my number one used function, and you guys will call me not a purist for doing this, but this is just basically consensus estimates. And so we have FactSet consensus estimates, which we double check. They're actually the same as the Bloomberg estimates. So you get the same estimates actually for free, technically, right now on Godel Terminal that Bloomberg has, which Bloomberg's pretty expensive. So anyway, this is the function I use the most on Bloomberg when I used Bloomberg before they banned me and made me their worst enemy. And in fact, it's sort of laid out pretty similarly to the Bloomberg function, and it does need to be prettied up a bit. These columns are a little too wide. I told my cosmetician, I think they call them front-end people now. But in any event, you can see here, and these should be changed a little bit as well. The formatting should be 0.0x if they're listening. But you can see that Microsoft is at 27 times fiscal 25 and 24 times fiscal 26, which isn't that bad because it is a decently growing company. Let's check Google. So Goog, $150 stock, 16 times. I don't know if you guys see that. 16 and a half times fiscal 25 and 15 times fiscal 26. And you can click revenue here so you can look at sales. Pretty incredible sales, 400 billion in revenue. You can click EBITDA, you can click net income, any of these, cash flow, which we love to see. All those things you can compare and look at individual quarters. And basically when you make your model or you download my model or you don't even look at a model, you can use these to compare the individual quarters and say, wait a second, Wall Street thinks it's going to be this much. Why am I so different from Wall Street? And I think that's kind of neat. Let's look at Eli Lilly, which is the biggest drug company. It's 31 times and then 25 times. Let's go Merck. So Merck is a funny one because Merck has some debt and it's 9 times earnings and 8 times 2026. The problem with Merck is that eventually Keytruda goes off patent, and that's a huge part of their earnings, probably half the company. So the earnings multiple will actually go up over time as the earnings go down. The E in the PE is not so great. So again, I'm not a huge fan of PE ratios because I think they encourage laziness. We will make sure we get 27, 28, 29 estimates as well. And perhaps that'll be more of a paid feature. But in any event, I think that the Merck situation is very unique. I looked at Merck very closely and I didn't think it was that great. PayPal is one I want to dig into. I think it could be a really good long, trading around 10 times earnings. Not much growth over at PayPal, but 10 times earnings, 10 times earnings. Let's look at a few others. How about Amazon? 27 times, 22 times. Let's see. How about ExxonMobil? I never look at energy. 14 times, 12 times. That's not bad. JP Morgan, 11 times, 10 times. So it's really just the Mag 7 that's all messed up, right? How about NVIDIA? NVIDIA is 32 times and 20 times. That's actually not bad for the greatest technology company on the planet. Not bad at all. What else? Procter & Gamble. 23 times, 22 times, no growth there. Sorry, I have no blinds here, so I don't like streaming from here because the sun's literally in my eyes. Costco is 51 times and 46 times. Again, for very limited growth. So that, let's click on revenue growth and see what we're working with here. but the revenue growth is 8% and 7% if they meet those numbers, right? They may not meet those numbers, but it's that's pretty good growth for a retailer. But I'm not sure. Remember, it's 50 times earnings. Walmart conclusively has no growth, last I checked, and 34 times and 32 times. Sales closer to single digit, inflationary levels. How about like Regeneron or Gilead? 13 times, 12 times for Regeneron, Gilead, sort of same category. Gilead's really attractive because they're coming out with this basically a cure for HIV. If you've been following Gilead for 25 years, like I have, it's a company that's basically solely dedicated to HIV. And they've tried to sort of get diversified, but they've also not wanted to abandon their strength in HIV. So they have routinely had the best cocktail HIV sort of pill. And, they've had once daily pills for a really long time, about 15, 20 years. And those once daily pills have changed the game for HIV. But now they're moving, and it's a bit of a risky move, and we'll see what happens, but they're moving to an injection. And the injection is twice a year. And you don't have to remember to take your pill. And the pill is problematic because if you have HIV and you forget to take your pill for even as little as a few days, the HIV will come back and could even mutate, which you don't want. So the pill is not only, the shot, the new Lenacapavir, their new product, I think it could be one of the best-selling drugs of all time, possibly Keytruda sized. And the reason for that is a few reasons. You could actually, for the first time, eliminate HIV completely. And why do I say that? Well, if you take the drug prophylactically, so you take the shot and you're HIV negative, and you take the shot, you're basically covered for 6 months, if that makes sense. So, there's a really good shot here, no pun intended, where you can actually use this product as a vaccine as well as a treatment. And that's something that's never really existed before. There was PrEP, but PrEP had this problem, like it was sort of like the morning after pill, where you sort of had to remember to have it and time it and all this. With Lenacapavir, you do a twice yearly shot, perhaps in the future it'd be even less frequent. And I think that's something that the HIV community is going to adopt very quickly. It's HIV in general, it's a bit of an unusual thing. It's a very specific kind of market, but it's something interesting. The economic aspects of the real HIV problem, the problem's real everywhere, but the problem in Africa, that dynamic is very different. Now, again, if Bill Gates would be generous and give Gilead $50 billion, then, I'm sure we could solve the HIV problem in Africa. But some of the problems in Africa include a resistance to taking medication regardless. So there's a lot of stigma about taking medicine in Africa that's a little unusual. Now, maybe that's changing, maybe it's not, but I think there are some countries that would love to, in essence, inoculate their whole population. So in any event, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, but I think this is a, really compelling medicine that, again, could be one of the best-selling drugs of all time. So we'll see how that plays out. And for 10 times earning or 12 times earning, that's a pretty good deal. They also have a little bit of debt. So that 12, 13 is more like, 14, 15. So in any event, there's a quick view of the market. Yes, got some weirdos in chat here. Welcome, weirdos. Green screen? What the fuck are you talking about green screen? We will, yeah, so that's one of the major updates to Godel. There are a few other little ones, but that's, I think we'll do an API at some point. I don't have opinions on White House stuff and things like that. Yeah, I'm just a suburban dad now. NVIDIA's valued high because the company is basically, going to usher in the future. Yeah, sun is something I'm kind of allergic to in general. So there's actually a disease called erythropoietic protoporphyria, and in erythropoietic protoporphyria, there's actually an allergy to the sun. The sun is painful. It's almost like a vampire disease. We're having a boy. Intel is a weird one. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have an Excel plugin and an API and everything else. I actually am in charge of making the Excel plugin, and oh man, Microsoft does not make making plugins very easy. Yeah, Clinic Valley, there you go. Yeah, it's a sort of a porphyrin disease. The porphyrin system is very interesting. Yeah, I think Sarepta's a steal. I just, this certainly the tariffs have nothing to do with Sarepta. It's half off in the last month. It's a falling knife, but I would have no problem making this one of my biggest positions. Again, I use EM as a crutch. Look at next year's earnings. It's trading at 4 times earnings if they make that number. I think they might beat that number. And the year after, it could be trading 1 or 2 times earnings. There's no diseases that are low-hanging fruit for AI, unfortunately, no. No more Tatiana, that's correct. You could see how a woman decorates a house versus a man. My place is a dungeon. This place is very nice. But I think they'll merge a bit because BDACL, you seem like you're out of control, buddy. You a Godel customer? You're a little out of control there. You need, maybe take some. If you were here, I would give you a nice fat injection of haloperidol, intramuscular. Get over here. Little Haldol. I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, PayPal looks really good. EPP is the vampire disease, erythropoietic protoporphyria. I love saying long disease names. Focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. What supply chain feature do you want me to look at? Yeah, Amex, IVVD. There's so many. There's a lot of longs. This is my girl's crib. I'm gonna go sneak and go find her purse so I can go trade more Rigetti. Don't tell her. Where the money at? Where's the money? Good question, Sizzle. I think probably because it's under maintenance and we'll be back soon. It's exactly what it says. You guys are wild, but I love you. Strong Island? Bestchester? No cats here. Let me get a HELOC. babe, listen. I found the deed. I put my name on it because I love you. I took out a HELOC. Yeah, got a HELOC. I took the money. I put it in Robinhood. Feel me? I had a strategy. The strategy was working. I was up double. That's where the story ends. No, I don't do steel or raw materials. Sub-Q Keytruda's not going to really help very much. Yeah, our numbers are great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll try to make custom. We've talked about Gython, Godel script, Jekyll. We'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm having a baby boy soon. That's a fact, Oversized. That's what we do. The Qubits Quantinium will be his name, yes. Mtagvi. Gathon. There's a lot of fake news in general. Jacob in here selling me the HELOC. Yeah, the fake news thing was typical. I mean, in market times like this, like I said, it's the tinderbox. So any little thing. Now, of course, they denied the rumor and the market's still going up. So I think it tells you we probably get a little bit oversold temporarily, but I think we're going to have to still deal with the overvalued issue. And people are talking about stagflation. You're not going to buy Walmart or Costco at 40 and 50 times earnings in a stagflation environment. And certainly stagflation, that word doesn't sound good for tech either. So, think about some pharma longs. I think if you have no pharma in your portfolio, it might make sense to consider some pharma. Speaking of which, let's look at some pharma. So again, for like Lilly, the problem we have with Lilly is that, we're basically estimating, use CF to go to company filings and just hit 10K, and we've got Eli Lilly's 10K. The SEC website too slow for me. I need to be able to do it in a couple of clicks, because if I have to do this all day, then it better be a fast process. And if you want to go even faster, you just do FA. And you have all the financials there if you only want to look at the financials. But even with Bloomberg and even with my own system Godel, I still like to do my own source numbers. And if you've been an OG in the game, you know exactly why. It's still preferable, believe it or not. And as weird as that sounds, I will sometimes what I do is I'll use a system, and then if the system's ever wrong, I'm shutting the system down, because I need it to be right every single time. And if it's wrong once, I got a big problem. So, that's kind of the way these systems work, is that they'll be right. And then I noticed, like for Apple, Bloomberg excluded the one-time payment they made to the European Union from earnings. And that's the way I would do it too. But other systems include the one-time earnings payment, because who are they to override the Apple income statement? What would you do? Do you include it or exclude it? It's supposed to be the official number, and the official number is that they paid the $2 billion out of the income statement. So how do you take it out of the income statement? So if you use Bloomberg, you're putting in one number. If you use Godel or some other systems, you're putting in another. Now again, I actually like that move, but it's also a question of policy. And you should be able to click, okay, well, I don't want that. I want the official number, I want the adjusted number, or whatever. So I still like to do my own, because I get to make those judgment calls myself and say, wait a second, this fine, maybe not fine, but this one-time payment, was that not actually one time? I think it's worth including. We typically exclude them, obviously. So just something to keep in mind as we hone our skills, investing skills, and think about what's one time and what isn't. With all these European fines, the European Union seems to be putting themselves through solvency by fining our American tech companies. It's sort of absurd. And Zuck reportedly asked the president, his new friend, for help on that. He said, what the hell? We pay these guys a $2 billion fine every week for some random new thing. Oh, this month, well, technically, you did this. And, the competition union finds that this happened, and it's just this like random decree from some foreign land. Now they are doing business in the land, and when you do business in somebody's land, you do have to abide by their rules, but they certainly seem capricious and just kind of whatever. Okay, so the problem with Lilly is you have to believe that GLP-1s are going to get even bigger. And at no point in time will they halt or slow down. Because if they do, Lilly stock is going to drop a lot. And so just to keep the stock from falling, you have to assume that Mounjaro and Zepbound continue to grow, and they can't have a bad quarter. And bad quarters happen all the time. Even while drugs are growing, bad quarters happen. I have a funny long story about that, but in general, you can still have a drug that's growing and growing and growing, but it can have one bad quarter where it's down from last quarter, or it's flat when you expected a lot of growth, and the stock will get absolutely annihilated because people say, well, the whole market cap is based on GLPs getting bigger and bigger. So do you want to take the risk of owning this stock if one bad quarter happens? It seems like a really, frivolous thing, and you could be sitting at, a much lower stock price, and then you have to make the judgment call, which will paralyze everyone. Of, well, is that slowdown real, or is it a head fake? And that'll keep you up at night. So, it's kind of one of these stocks where it will push higher because of that dynamic has sort of kept everyone in some ways away from it. So I feel like, it'll kind of go higher as they execute, but they also have to execute. So it's a really, really tricky situation. I think it's, possibly avoidable. Let me see. They have a new gain on sale here. Where do I put this guy? Maybe another. Yeah. All right. Almost missing $1 million. When you miss $1 million, it's a typo usually. 3333. There it is. 3312. Okay. Got it. Done. Okay. So Lilly, TTM, $9 billion cash flow from operations. And that's actually a pretty interesting way to look at Lilly, because they are building out these factories, and the factories are, for GLP-1s. So it's 80 times earnings on GLP-1s. But I think you can take those last two cash flow numbers and probably run with them. And let's look at net income. Yeah, net income is more like 11. So cash flow is actually below net income. So, man, they'll probably do 15. Yeah, so you just have to be a GLP-1 believer, and if you're a GLP-1 believer that everyone's going to be on these drugs and it's going to double or triple from here, that's a big call to make. And, I don't know that I'm ready to say that the GLP-1s will be a $40 or $50 billion drug for Lilly. It's a lot. That's assumed. That's not, that's in the stock. That's not some like crazy moonshot estimate. That's like they have to do that. To get upside, you got to get like 80 billion in GLP-1, and we know Keytruda's at 30 billion, right? So it's a bit of it's a hell of a ramp up. But again, look at Nvidia. It's kind of like Nvidia, and we've never had too much stuff like this in pharma. We've had it here and there, but in pharma, the big game changers don't come that often. When they do come, they kind of come in a backdrop of something else dropping. So, like Merck had a lot of those problems. Merck had a bunch of drugs go generic while Keytruda was growing rapidly, so they ended up not having this spectacular growth. They sort of have the opposite issue with Lilly. They had a lot of things go right at once. And, certainly the GLP, was one of the best stories in pharma in maybe a decade or two. So I feel like, that's great for Lilly, but we don't know when GLPs will stop growing. We do get weekly prescriptions we can look at. And they look very healthy, and Lilly can generate demand. I mean, I wouldn't underestimate the ability of the company to go find people to take Mounjaro and Zepbound. We'll sort of see how it all plays out, but I think that the Lilly kind of like situation is a little dangerous given kind of the there's a little bit of discretion in that product too. So, I wouldn't overthink that one. I don't think it matters in, a recession if, there's a little bit of softness in the product, because the recession will be over and the cash flow will continue. The spice must flow. There's no problem with that, I don't think. Let me see here. Okay. Borrowings. Sorry I have to do this. I really do have to keep up with these things. If you don't keep up with your models, then you get fired. And I'll fire you. I'll come to your house and fire you. Right in your dining room table. The doorbell rings. Who is it? Martin Shkreli. What? Oh, Martin, I'm such a big fan. Why don't you sit down for dinner? You're fired. What? You're not my boss. Yes, I am. Stop kidding around. Come, have a seat. No, I bought the company. You're fired. That's what happens if I find out that one of your models is behind by a quarter. It's a big problem, buddy. Okay, I want to see what the price of Lilly was on 12/31. How do I do that? I go to Godel, LLY, equity HP. Same command as our backwards compatible system, whose name I will not mention. And then on 12/31, we see it closed at 770.67. And the market cap was 700 at the time. And this is fun because you can actually, I normally don't do this in my models, but like it doesn't take too much to put the price at the end of the period. Some people use the average price of the period. And you can kind of see Lilly went from 161 or 147 billion market cap, because the shares outstanding do change every period. So I just multiplied by the real shares outstanding, which are here in row 83. And we've went from 150 all the way up to 819 and now down to 700. Real bargain for Lilly. And again, you can see it's not too many big pharma companies growing 40%, just like Nvidia. You basically have never seen a big pharma grow 40%. It's the first time ever for Lilly. And that's why they're the biggest pharma in the world. And you saw the same thing with Nvidia, where how many times have you seen a semi company grow revenue 200% at scale, and not because of a cyclical rebound, but because of an actual growth product. I mean, it's unprecedented. I've sort of talked many, many times about this big three that's going to drive Nvidia forward. So I really love the company. The stock is a different matter. As you can see, the stock can have a mind of its own. But I like the stock now. I'm pretty constructive on it. It's a lot cheaper than it was a month or two ago. And there's sort of three big things with NVIDIA. I spent a good chunk of time being an AI programmer, and my lovely life partner is a AI person. So I know a lot about AI, for better or worse. I don't think it's really ever going to make me a ton of money, but I looked at it very closely. So you sort of have this sort of AGI is the first pillar, and I think that's kind of goes without saying how valuable that is. And I think Sam Altman has sort of said GPT-5 is coming. You've seen a lot of cool new things, whether it be GPT 4.5 or Grok or whatever. And I think that we're still really not understanding just how game-changing, this kind of technology is going to be. I was reading the book Source Code, the Bill Gates memoir, and I was telling my lady that Microsoft was probably responsible for a percentage point of GDP growth every year for the last 20 years. Now maybe that's a little excessive, but half a percentage point. And OpenAI, and of course its peers, Grok and XAI and Claude and all these other guys, Google, a little company called Google, all of these guys are going to be responsible for more, because it's really going to unleash human creativity and human productivity more than the Office suite did. We look at the Office suite and we sort of take it for granted, but it improves your productivity a lot. But GPT is going to improve your productivity way more, in my opinion. So we had a boom partially because of productivity software and enterprise software. A lot of enterprise software never even worked. If you've ever worked on an SAP or Oracle system, you know what I'm talking about. And this stuff really, really delivers. It kind of over delivers. And we're getting more of this stuff that's going to be even better. And then you have SSI, which is kind of this dark horse, as well as Keen, Carmack's thing, and many others. Everyone wants to bring about the ultimate AGI. Whether AGI meets your definition or my definition, that's completely irrelevant. What's relevant is, are we getting this incredible, sort of incredible result, which is software that can help you think and organize things. That's the main point, and we are going to get that, and that requires basically paying NVIDIA. And we've gone from sort of I think I said this on Friday, the software guys monopolizing all of the economics to a hardware player, NVIDIA, saying, no, all that stuff, you got to pay us. It used to be the other way around. Having said that, Wintel was a thing, but Intel was not as extractive as NVIDIA is today. Now, extractive sounds like a bad term. I mean, they're being rewarded. This may be a softer term, but whether you're being rewarded or extracting profits, either way, NVIDIA is making more money from the AI revolution than Intel made from the PC revolution. And so I think that, AGI is kind of that first pillar. The second is autonomous vehicles, which I think gets slept on a bit. It's probably not as important as AGI, but it's also a little closer to home. AGI is kind of a amorphous, thing. But before I leave AGI, what I'd say is that, let's say it takes an H100 to make AGI. You'd have an individual H100, okay, for each person. This is kind of the way I think about Intel. Let me close this Lily model real quick after I pop in the right number here. Let's see, 6639. Okay, great. Did I already have this? Or did I just popped it in? Okay. So opening up the NVIDIA model. Okay. One way to look at it, I have robotics here, and then do I have AGI here? I didn't even do AGI for this. So yeah, I mean, one way to think about it is an H100 is $40,000. I'm not even going to use the new generation, which would change the numbers, but let's be conservative. Would you want for $40,000 a machine that can make you 1,000 times smarter, do your job better, things like that? Of course, I'd want it just the same way a hedge fund gives a $25,000 Bloomberg license to an analyst to make the firm lots of money. It's the same reason you would give a $40,000 H100 equipped with, maybe another expensive AGI together to make a human more productive, especially if that human's working at a Walmart or a Procter & Gamble or a Lockheed or, any corporate job, and they're tasked with, making the S&P 500 go up. That's a big job, and you need AGI for that. So you have $40,000, any researcher in a university, et cetera, it's millions of people and, potentially a billion people. And so, your revenue of NVIDIA is tiny compared to that opportunity, which is kind of crazy to think about. But it's, that's how growth is sometimes. When Google first IPO'd, you could actually build a forecast that got them to 300 billion in revenue, and at the time the revenue was like 10 billion or something. And you felt stupid saying, I don't know, I'm used to models where my revenue goes up 10% or 5% or something. I'm not used to modeling a 10x increase in revenue, especially after we've had a 100x increase in revenue. And the reality is, you can't be afraid. You just have to go where your numbers tell you to go. And in the case of a $40,000 box for a billion people, well, it's embarrassing, but that's $40 trillion of revenue, which is, never been seen before, period, in the world. Not even close. But, I have them getting to around $1 trillion in revenue. So it sort of tells you something about the opportunity of AGI. Governments, universities, and top financial firms and S&P 500 companies are where we'll start. And I think you're going to want multiple AGIs. They're basically going to be a human equivalent. But a more reliable human that works 24/7, that you don't have to pay that much. And they don't scale. They don't ask for more money. If you have a top performer like, say, a Kamath, or, the young Martin Shkreli shows up at your office, that person very quickly is going to say, well, thank you for the nice salary, but, I could start my own company. And you got to pay me 10x what you paid me last year. And you sit there and say, I don't know if I could do that. And, maybe they do it. And then the next year they say, you got to give me half the company. Or if I'm going to stay, because I can start my own. And, eventually that sort of talent sort of tends to leave for that reason. That's not going to happen with AI. At least I don't think. We'll see. So the next sort of sleeve of that is autonomous vehicles. And I think I did a little bit of work on this. Yeah. So I reasoned that we took the half the price of the H100. And if 9 million vehicles in the world become autonomous, they all have to use sort of an NVIDIA chip. They theoretically could use a TPU. Well, let's say 9 million. And finally, you have robotics, which is the final frontier. I don't think this is going to happen for a while, But the theory, at least from Elon, is that one, I mean, each of these robots will probably require a box as well. Now remember, this compute is getting cheaper, but the compute needed is also rising. So it's a little hard to know exactly how it's going to pan out, of course. And that's why these are bets on the future. Bets on the past are rather easy. They already happened. But, Elon said we'll have more robots than humans. Well, it's a lot of robots. And if the robots could each require an NVIDIA chip, you're really talking about the biggest company of all time. It's already the second or third biggest company of all time. So it's not that crazy, but it's the biggest company of all time by an order of magnitude. So what's going to happen? Can somebody else make one of these chips? Sure, maybe. But even if AMD's chip was just as good and they cranked out at full capacity, I'm not sure that you're going to get very far because you have a lot of chips to make, and you'll probably be capacity constrained. And the companies that want to take advantage of this are really hungry for this stuff and raising lots of capital. OpenAI just raised $40 billion days before the crash, and basically they're going to spend, I think, most of that money on chips. And so NVIDIA's, it's sort of hard to argue with this one. When it got to these like nosebleed prices, you sort of sit there and say, I can wait on this. But it dropped by about a third. So, I'm in. I think it's it's pretty good long compared to stuff like IonQ or whatever. Now, or Fartcoin. Does it mean NVIDIA stock will only go up from here because it's my words to God's ears? No, of course not. There could be a tariff that turns into a trade war, that turns into a hot war. And, something like that would cause some calamity in the market, and there could be other problems. AMD catches up. I don't know. But the point is that I think it'll outperform some of the dog shit biotechs will short, or we have shorted, like Cassava or AVXL. It'll outperform some of the dog shit stocks that have already dropped a lot, like IonQ and D-Wave or Getty, that will drop further. So I think I'm pretty comfortable with that one. Okay, this sun is blinding my vampire instincts. I think maybe I should move or do something here. I don't know. Yeah, you're going to marry a robot. I mean, you're going to be in love with a robot. Finding a human is going to be biological, You're going to have two guys at a bar, or two guys, I don't know, they're at work, where they're 20-something. And this is guy talk, locker room talk. And he says to, I'll name the guy, what should I name it? Ben Shapiro? No, it's Ben and who else do I pick here? Who do I pick on? I don't want to pick Destiny because I need a heterosexual. How about Bill Ackman? Yeah, okay. Ben and Bill. Young Ben and Bill. They're chatting. They're buddies. And Ben says to Bill, I was out last night at the club. Bill's like, uh-huh. And Ben says, yeah, I met a 10 out of 10. Top dime, gorgeous woman. And Bill says, yeah, what happened? He said, I took her back to my place and, we got it on. Bill says, way to go, Ben. That's awesome. What's she like? Or Humphrey, there you go. And Ben's like, oh, it was awesome. It was the best I've ever had. And Bill says, biological or human? Biological or robot? Biological or synthetic? And Ben's like, of course synthetic. Come on, bro. I'm working on the robot factory with you. I'm not pulling some biological woman. That's going to be like very rare and difficult. So I think maybe that's the world we're going to be in. Your kid comes home and says, Dad, I want you to meet my new friend. And he You say, Billy, oh, sure, who's your new friend? And the robot walks in. He says, his name's Nick. You look at him like, what the fuck? Billy, this is a robot. Dad, stop being speciesist. So, Nick. Start poking him with a stick. Dad, stop that! The fuck is this thing? Start hitting it. Stop hitting him, Dad! He doesn't have a nervous system. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do think that's going to be where we're, where we're going, for better or worse. Now I think there's going to be an elite group of biological species, and the rest of us have to deal with synthetic intelligence as our companions, friends, and all this stuff. And on the internet, you won't be able to tell at all who is who. And, taxing the robots and all this stuff, is going to come to fruition. And if you want to read about this kind of stuff, there's plenty of places to hang out on the internet or whatever, and you go a little crazy because, all of this stuff is New York and San Francisco and really rich people. But if you go to Idaho or Iowa, they're still talking about, factory work and stuff like that. So I feel like, we'll sort of see what the future brings. But I think that all of that sort of NVIDIA benefits all of that. One example is talking with my girlfriend about this idea that, let's say the Gap had to make clothes in America, period, the end. They would hire somebody like Andrew Ng, famous AI guy, and they'd say, listen, we need to make clothes in America thanks to these new tariffs. How are we going to do that? We can't afford to hire people. And he says, okay, we're going to speed up a robot project where the robots are going to make the clothes. And of course, at these prices, I'm not sure AGI robots actually beat humans, right? I mean, certainly not in Bangladesh. But, at some point, the cost of intelligence will ideally go down, and that you could have a seamstress robot that's making clothing all day long that is at, what would be slave wages for humans, or even worse than the worst wages, ideally. And that's what robotics and automation are all about. And we could actually bring production back to America. It's not going to do the job that's intended necessarily, but it could be something really, really interesting. Again, I'd love to look at these stocks, but I'm having a terrible time with this. So I have to fix this by sort of tomorrow. Because I can't see my screen. Yeah, let me log into my trading account. Give me a second here. I'm on all kinds of different computers that aren't, that don't have like the systems attached to them. So I have to install everything, and it's a real pain in the neck. I can remote into my other computer, so I'm doing that now. But yeah, this sunlight thing is really not my thing. It's a I'm so used to the computer's blue glare that sunlight's really painful. Hopefully the clouds will come. I see MicroStrategy is earning its Bag 7 nomination. As it should. Okay, so where are we at? I'm logging in to Thinkorswim. I have to go do the same with Interactive too. But I don't have a second monitor here, so I don't know if I want to set it up. I should be able to, but I'd have to blank out the screen for a bit. So I could do that on my own time. But let me read this. Okay, how are we doing? All right, we are at 30,259. So we're down a bit from Friday, but we're still up a little less than 1%, just a hair less than 1%. So let me see if I can, yeah, I don't see how I can get this over. Let me maybe take a screenshot and then, I don't even know. But yeah, the positions, I'll just read them out. Short AVXL, long American Express, short Capricorn, long Google, long HIMS, which I'm probably going to sell. Short Huma, short INMB, short IonQ, long IBVD, long Meta, short MicroStrategy, long NVIDIA. I might talk myself into buying more NVIDIA. That was pretty good. Long Farming, short QBTS, which is D-Wave, short QUBT, which is Quantum Computing Inc., short Rigetti, short RXRX, long RZLT, long Sarepta, and long Tarsus. Those are my picks. I am, let's see here, losing money, the most money on Rigetti, which I am willing to short some more of. Let's see, I just want to make sure what's my position size. It's roughly 2% of the portfolio, but I'm really confident in this one, so I think I can short a little bit more. You guys wanted to see me be aggressive but not wild. So I will short a little bit more Rigetti and make that my largest position for now, but I'm going to keep adjusting, so don't go anywhere. Let's see. All right. And I'll promise you I'll have all these screens up by tomorrow. But right now it's, like I said, I'm in a situation where I don't have all my systems that I can easily accommodate all that information. All right, my second biggest loser is IonQ, which I'm short 1% of. This is a great opportunity. I'm going to short a little bit more. I might sell my HIMS and just book a nice win there. Let me see. What else? D-Wave and Quantum Computing Inc. I'm only down on the quantum stuff. I'm up on everything else, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, HIMS. Listen. I mean, it's a quick gain here, so might be time to just call it a day with HIMS. Okay, I'm out of HIMS. Thank you for the money. HIMS. 0 now. Yeah, I think I want to buy PayPal. There's another kind of thing there. But yeah, we're at 3249, so almost up 1% over the last week or so, which I'm pretty happy with. Very, very, very little gross and net exposure, so the account's almost still all in cash, which I think is a reasonable, when you're starting out an account, that's a reasonable thing to do. I might consider covering some MicroStrategy too, because if Bitcoin rallies, I kind of think tariffs will blow over, and that we could get a new lease on life in the market for another 6 months. I You guys know my famous story in '07. I basically bet the farm that we were going to have a great financial crisis. I was wrong. We had one in '08. So, I would have been Michael Burry. And the Farmer Bro all in one. But, I saw everyone on Wall Street saw the same thing Burry did, and Paulson, and really it's Paulson and Falcone. Burry was distant third. There were actually some others as well. So Burry was like maybe not even top 5 people who got that trade right. Paulson was by far number 1, right? Paulson made like $40 billion or $25 billion or something. And there's a book called The Greatest Trade Ever or something like that. And then Paulson never had another good year again, basically. His next big idea was gold. Well, he was right, but he was early. He basically went all in on gold. And that was a terrible trade for 5 years. And I think he sold it. But gold is obviously would have been a perfect trade now. So the point is, timing is everything. And, I'm nervous that tariffs will blow over and we'll go back to the bull market. At the same token, I also think that tariffs might not blow over and that they are just a match that lights the tinderbox, and the tinder is what the problem is. It's not the match. The match is just there, while the planks of dry wood that we built up, deficits, inflation, high valuations, these kinds of things are the problem. Any structural impediment to growth, massive amounts of debt is the main one. That we basically borrowed lots of money to have a pretty low GDP growth. And now that, we got to pay back that money, we can't keep borrowing, we have to get to a new normal of growth that's very low. So that's kind of what we're talking about and what we're working with. Let me do some things here, 1 second. Just some small adjustments to my model portfolio. Make sure you go to godelterminal.com and use our product for free. Chat with me on there and send me DMs. And I'm about to post my phone number on there so you could just call me. I might have an operator pick up though. Again, I can hardly see my screen because of the glare of the sun. I mean, what should I do? Should I... You guys have any suggestions? Oh, maybe I could throw a... Oh, I got an idea. Let me think here. Yeah, I'm customer support. I don't care. I have a kitchen towel here. I'm going to put it up. This is a disaster. I'm the least handy person in the world. God damn it. Okay, hold on. Oh, shit. I'm going to fall down. Shift the desk. Okay, that's a lot smarter. But the problem is there's a bunch of stuff on the floor that I have to move to. But that is probably the best idea. By far. Block out the sun. This is a kitchen towel. This is just a normal kitchen towel. Kitchen is right here, so it's the only thing I can think of. Get paper and tape over the window. Okay. Yeah, I could use this blanket. I just don't know how to. There's nothing I could do to like nail it up or. And I'm pretty sure wifey's going to be upset if I use this. Oh, I see one of her purses. Give me that. Oh yeah, need that. towels in there. I'm gonna put that on DraftKings. There's a, okay, so the window doesn't even have, it doesn't open. This is a decorative window. Painted over or something. No, I think it's decorative. So this one opens. But I think the glare, oh yeah, that could work. I don't know. If I had a hammer, I'd try it. Okay, I have these paper towels. What if I put the paper towel there? Doesn't seem to be doing anything. No, that doesn't seem to do it. Here's the problem. We got this as my view. So, maybe just make the monitor brighter. That makes sense. Tape. I don't have tape. I wish I had tape. Okay. I don't have tape, but I have this. Smart. It's adhesive. Works just as well. The sun's coming in harder. There are some ants here. Turn the screen, that's not a bad idea. Maybe make it a little brighter. Oh, stand up the couch. I like that idea too. Oh, it's heavy. God damn. Almost threw my damn back out. Okay, this could work. This is like a little blanket thing. I don't know how to attach it to the, like this would work great, but there's nothing I can use to hang it. Oh, I see some cobwebs up there. This is hard work. I'm already tired. I don't have tacks. What tacks? Where do I get tacks? See, I told her about this. I said I needed drapes. So if there's 500 missing from her purse, it ain't my fault. I said we need drapes. How am I going to stream without the drapes? Oh, I like that idea. Blanket fort. I could kind of construct a box around the monitor
and then just like my head is in the box. That's probably the best way to do this. Many times I've been asked, how am I so stupid and smart at the same time? I can't tell you. That I don't know. My lawyer used to say that. Ben. Ben would be like, why are you so fucking stupid? Like, what? He'd be like, you can't threaten Hillary Clinton, Martin. I said, I didn't threaten her. He said, well, what did you say? I said, yeah, the judge's going to say you threatened her. No, my lawyer's awesome. I don't care what you have to say. Damn it. Okay. I think maybe I do like the Arab money. I can't see the screen. Ah, damn it. It's not gonna work. God damn it. By the time I figure this out, the sun will already... Market's on 12 bips. I can't see my screen. It would be really nice, like something large that I can just put up against this wall. Oh, I might have it. No, it's not sturdy enough. She's gonna kill me. Okay, here. I'm gonna build a system of pillows. And it's gonna be like a tightly integrated wall of pillows. She's got a lot of pillows for some reason. You know women with their pillows, you know? Alright, here's another one. I'm slowly gonna erect a number of pillows. Ah! They're falling! Ah, damn it. They need to... Okay. God damn it. She's typing me, I should just cave and build curtains there before going to get nice blinds like I've been hoping. You get something before I find all your purses and jewelry. Goddamn welfare check. I think maybe I can do this. The problem is it's like a house of cards. Like I can't keep stacking pillows because they don't really have a foundation that's reasonable. Okay, let's see how that is. Maybe I've made progress. So this is what we've done so far. A couple of pillows. The top of the window is the problem, but not sure how to address that yet. We're building a wall of pillows. It's actually a little bit better. Use water and paper towel to stick to the window. Hey, okay, listen, I can do that. Okay. Problem is the light still kind of comes through. She's talking about going to Lowe's. I've never been to a goddamn Lowe's. Okay. Let's see how our project is looking now. What do you think? It's good, right? There's no opening of this window. The other one opens. This is the finest Albanian engineering. FX, that's what we're doing. I think like I can't keep stacking pillows. Oh, it work. Like this pillow is like not conforming to like this. This could be a base pillow, but it's not a level 2 pillow or level 3 pillow. All right. I'm expecting a black woman to call up and say, "What the fuck are you doing in my house?" Baby. I'm just trying to get the stream money, baby. The stream pays you $30 a month. What am I gonna do with $30 a month? Okay, it's all falling down now. Have I ever met a self-funded trader that's made a living? Of course. Like hundreds of them. All right. The only thing that's working is the... I'm not dating a black woman, no. I am having a child, yes. Just get a blanket, but how? But how, Sway? If I had a blanket... We can afford blinds, okay? We can afford blinds. No, not Mira Murati. Close. Ah, damn it. I'm sweating, I need a break. I think adjusting the monitor brightness may actually work the best. How do I do that? Brightness. 100. Contrast, do I adjust that? How about sunglasses? That's a little better. 1 or 2 more paper towels to do the trick. Oh, the paper towel fell. God damn it. This shit is something else. Come on. I guess these things get dry because the water that's holding the towel to the window is also getting sunlight. So this is kind of a ferric system. It's a rheostat. Blanket how? There's nothing to hang the blanket on. It's the first thing I would have done. I think you would need at least 5 million to trade from home by yourself and live off the money. I mean, I could turn the stream off, but then all my computer shit, I'd have to do it on my laptop. Can't watch the markets right now. Okay, the sun's kind of setting a little bit. It's moving over the house as time goes on, which is good. Yeah, it's a green screen. Yeah, I got a bed sheet. Shut the studio down. I do think a blanket would work. The problem is the camera. I can't open the window. It's not a window that opens. The other one opens. No, shoe retailer can't have a moat, I don't think. Take the door off the hinges. Ooh, I like this. It's extreme, but it might work. I don't know if I'm bullish on the Mag 7. I'm bullish on NVIDIA. Yeah, I don't think she would love the idea of honey all over her house. And the ants outside would enjoy that. A coat rack would be good. All right. NVIDIA traded 500 million shares. Wow. Ford 200, Tesla 150, Lucid 150, Palantir 150, Apple, Intel, Bank of America, and Denison Mines all around 100. Amazon grabbed SoFi, Robinhood New, and Pfizer, Vail, Neo, Supermicro, American Airlines, Alphabet, Lloyds, AT&T, AMD, Transocean, and Baytex Energy all traded around 50 million to 100 million shares. Big gainers, USA Rare Earth, USAR. A lot of people are excited about this as a tariff play. Rhythm Pharmaceuticals, one of my old friends. I always used to like this stock. I've lost touch with these guys and what's happening to them. Phase 3 trial results. Hypothalamic obesity, 20% weight loss. This is a company that makes drugs for extreme obesity due to a genetic illness. US Steel, up 15%. Restoration Hardware rebounding. NuScale Power, Oklo. You know, you're seeing all of the old momentum stocks coming back. IonQ, Oklo, Rigetti, Supermicro. That's kind of what's on the menu for today. Restoring the old momentum paradigm. The sky isn't falling, so the Robinhood traders come out and start bidding. Lotus, Hutchmed, Lexin, all down 15%. A couple of other stocks, nothing that really jumps out at me. Dyne Therapeutics, which we're looking at the other day. Alibaba down 10%. Kind of a tariff loser there. All right, NVIDIA's traded $50 billion today, huge amount. Tesla, $35 billion, Apple, $22 billion, Meta and Amazon, $15 billion, Microsoft and Palantir around $10 billion. Alphabet, Broadcom, Strategy, Alibaba, Taiwan Semi, Alphabet, Berkshire, AMD, Netflix, Bank of America, Chase, Lilly, Costco, Visa, AppLovin, Micron, Exxon, and United Health all traded $2 billion to $10 billion worth of stock. MicroStrategy down 8%. S&P fading a little bit, down 40 bips. Nowhere near the catastrophe that some people were predicting on Sunday, which once everyone's predicting catastrophe and crashes, you know it's not going to happen. Okay. I also don't have two monitors, so I have to like Alt-Tab here. Yeah, AVXL just a zero of zeros. Make sure I'm short that, yes. We'll ramp up our AVXL short as ideally this trade comes to a conclusion. I was doing some financial programming yesterday all day. It was good. All right, let's look at some more biopharma, shall we? So to be an effective biopharma analyst, you just have to look at drugs all day long, every drug, nonstop. Like you cannot stop looking at medicines. And if you're doing that for like a big pharma, it's a lot of work. And you have to do it for a big pharma. If you don't do it for a big pharma, you're not going to understand little pharma, which is called biotech. So here's an example. Here's Roche. And it means that your models have to be thorough and complete. Every drug has to have its own page
That is not the case here. That's when I come to your house and fire you. So how do we figure out where Roche's pipeline is? Well, you start getting to work. You go to Roche.com. Can't be lazy. None of this information is in a single place. You got to go put it together. And nobody's going to do it for you unless you pay them a lot of money. So, innovation. Whatever this is. This is how they say R&D. I just want to see the pipeline, guys. Come on. Now, you could back into the pipeline by going to clinicaltrials.gov. There's a lot more thorough anyway. Yeah, this is terrible. It's like they don't want you to know. But yeah, there's no easy way to do it other than going one by one, which is, really painful. Here's row 7790121 for MASH. It's interesting. There's a lot of competition for MASH, and now you just Google row 7790121. See what happens. Oh, it's also being used for ulcerative colitis, so that's a big clue. And if there's a paper, it's even better. We can see exactly what the mechanism was. There it is. Anti-TL1A antibody. Now, I believe there's other TL1A antibodies, so now we have to go make a list of those if we really want to understand this shit. What a pain in the ass. Tumor necrosis factor like ligand 1A. They had something called the Tuscany trial. And because this is autoimmune, we want to, this is how I feel after trying to short IonQ and Rigetti sometimes. That, I don't know if you guys can see that, that's where I'm at. But let me shrink my face here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the master file, which I should probably rename that because it's insensitive to modern times. Then let me go to immunology. And again, keeping all of this stuff updated is a full-time job. I already have a full-time job. I'm a pimp. I don't think that job exists anymore. All right, so this is TL1A. Tuscany 2. Oh, what's this? PF, this was a Roivant drug? What? That'll make no, right. This went from Pfizer to Roivant to Roche.
This is what Roche. So this is one of the funniest stories in pharma, right? Is that Pfizer had this pile of immunology drugs, and they said, we don't want this anymore. Or Vivek, you know, said, I'll give you $100 million for all your immunology drugs. And Pfizer said, sure. Then he goes to Roche and he sells them for $6 billion. Like 3 months later. Woo. Gotta love it. One man's trash, another man's treasure. Okay, what's this? Tulisokibart. Tulisokibart. A terrible thing these new BARTs are. It's an antibody, new name for an antibody. This is Merck. Merck's TL1A. Merck paid a lot of money for this company, Prometheus. And here it is for ulcerative colitis. And let's see if we can get some data here. 26% remission, nobody in placebo. Not bad. This is for induction of remission. And we can go compare that to, say some of the other drugs that are used, like TNF alpha inhibitors. I mean, we should just know off the top of our heads what ulcerative colitis response rates are, right? Ay. I can log in here, but I want to jeopardize my password. If you don't know what ulcerative colitis is, it is one of the major autoimmune diseases. So here's etrasimod. I think they got etrasimod approved. Pfizer wasted a bunch of money for this molecule. Oh, God. Etrasimod. It's Velsipity. And it's a CYP inhibitor. So I got to add that now. Oh, yeah, I should put the MS drugs up here. Velsipity, S1P1. Or is it S1P? And that's for ulcerative colitis. Let's see how its response rates were. (27 versus 7 at week 12. So this is 26 versus 1, maybe a more stringent definition of remission, but I don't know, Velsipity isn't selling very well out of the gate, but it's just getting started. Let's see how that does. And this is the old name for the Roche drug. This is what Roche paid money for. That was Tuscany. Guselkumab. Let's see how Guselkumab's doing. That's our friend Tremfya. It's a P19 inhibitor subunit. And what do we do here? 60. That's clinical response. I don't know if that's a remission. You have to probably read the paper to see if there was a remission rate. Oh boy. Adobe really doesn't want me to read this thing. Well, we can read it without PDFs. This is why I hate jumping on new computers, even though they promise that the experience is the same over different PCs, it never is. All right, here's a remission for guselkumab. Sort of similar, 25 to 10. They kind of all have this 25 versus 10 sort of percent, right? We've seen 3 of these now. Okay, we've seen 3 of these that all sort of have the same data. So I don't know if this is going to be that big. The TL1A doesn't seem that profound. Although we should look at the biology of TL1A and see, okay, is that something that's really interesting? Ozanimod. This is a weird drug. It's from Abivax, a weird French company. There's vedolizumab, mirikizumab. Increased stool frequency, rectal bleeding, bowel urgency, abdominal pain, and fatigue. Ulcerative colitis is terrible. It's similar to Crohn's disease. I forget which one. I think Crohn's is higher in the GI tract, and UC is closer to the the rectum / lower colon area, but I'm not 100% sure. Whereas Crohn's is a little higher in the GI tract, more intestinal, isn't it? I don't know for sure. Any doctors in the house? I know a lot of doctors watch us. There you go. Thanks, Kashmula. You know Kashmula is always going to come through for you. And then there's the top quant on X, Poo Poo PP, or PP Poo Poo. Some people just call him P4. I highly recommend you follow PP Poo Poo. He just posted a couple of trades. He made $5 million in the last few days. He's the real deal. Like I said, if you know where to look, there are people that are really actually the serious, the serious thing, the real thing. Michael Bigger, my buddy, who's an early employee at D.E. Shaw, worked with a guy named Jeff Bezos. There's a lot of serious people on the internet if you know where to look. If you ask nicely, you might sometimes get the answer. All right, symptomatic remission. Week 12, this definition of remission must have been interesting because it's very high for both placebo and drug. Oh, well, their symptomatic remission is not the same as actual remission, right? Endoscopic or clinical remission. I believe that is different. There's bowel urgency remission.
eyes are still... All right, here's mirikizumab. It was inverse dose response here. 12% all the way up to 23% of drug versus 5% in placebo. That's phase 2. Pee-pee poo-poo is I mean, look, some of these people are going to be weird and strange. He's not completely normal, but he is, I can confirm, he's a real... I can't tell you I can't tell you anything about him. That's for him to reveal. But I will say at the very least that he's the real deal. He's been there, done that. Maybe even more so than I have. All right, ulcerative colitis for Omvo, which is mirikizumab, 12% to 23% versus 5%. Now, when you fill out these forms and you make all these tables, not only are you, storing information that you need to understand these companies in a good place, when you talk to a doctor, which you're supposed to do if you're in biopharma, when you talk to a doctor and you say, how do you feel about mirikizumab? In your head immediately, you know exactly what it is. There's no ambiguity. And the doctor will be pretty impressed because he's going to say, you're talking to me like you're a fellow immunologist. You just brush that off and say, yeah. But, it's your job to be that good. You're that good, you're going to be a millionaire. And all this information is on the internet. So it's up to you as to whether or not you want to be lazy. And I know you. You're going to be lazy. But some of you, like 1% of you, are going to say, I'm going to learn everything there is to know about immunology drugs. And then one of you will get the job at Baker Brothers or Citadel or something like that. And then one of you will say, I remember that guy, Shkreli. And I get one of those about once a week. Somebody says, oh, remember 8 years ago, you said that I should try this, and I did it. And now I'm the man. Okay, modified clinical remission at week 8. Was there a placebo in this bad boy? Okay, there's a placebo. Placebo-adjusted clinical remission at week 8. So subtract out placebo, I guess. Ritlecitinib. These things are terrible. There's just only so many syllables that haven't been taken. Ritlecitinib. It's not lectinib, it's lecitinib. And then there's brepocitinib. That one's not so bad. All right. So you tend to go down lots of rabbit holes with this stuff, but, trust me, you come out a lot smarter. And let's say, look at Vivek. I mean, Vivek was able to do this work, well, somebody who worked for him probably, but at his direction. And he was able to flip 100 mil to $6 billion. Think about that. And I know these companies, Pfizer's, Merck's, Lilly's, they'll sell you one of their drugs for $1 million. And you might be able to put some spit shine on it and sell it for 100. Happens every day. not easy. Nobody said it would be. But it is doable. You can find that diamond in the rough, and Vivek found it. That's one of the best deals I've ever seen. The best deals anybody's ever seen. Look it up. Roivant Roche. Roivant Pfizer. They basically took a stack of drugs from Pfizer and sold them to Roche for 100x. That's like a 100x price increase. Pretty good. Okay, there's an NCT number here too. Guessing this is a Pfizer run study. This was what these mechanisms were. Let's see. This was RIT. Well, actually, I'm curious if it just ever got approved. Oh, yeah, Litfulo. It's a funny fucking name. Because the FUL is like fool. Litfulo. And obviously that goes in your Pfizer model. And I just noticed the Litfulo product, and it's approved for alopecia. Go figure. Alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disease, believe it or not. Now brepocitinib, that's the thing. Pfizer had so many of these kinase inhibitors, they said, let me just sell them all to Vivek. We don't need all these. We only need a couple of these, right? And it turns out that, in fact, Roche wanted them so bad they paid $6 billion. So I don't know if Brepo ever went anywhere. Oh yeah, it became that. So that did go to Avant, and is it still at Priovant, or did Priovant go to Roche? Oh, there we go. I don't think Priovant was part of the Roche deal. Priovant was like maybe not included in the so they bought Telavant, not Priovant. $7 billion. Stand corrected. I said 6. So this is Roivant and Pfizer owning this together. Brepo. It looks like they're doing dermatomyositis or systemic sclerosis or one of those things. Okay, where are we? We were just getting some background on ulcerative colitis, basically. I do know a little bit about LP. Not too serious of an illness relative to some of these other autoimmune diseases. S&P flat. Bunch of stocks going up and down. That's my expert analysis right there. Huma, almost under $1. I fucking love it. That's a scum company. I fucking love it. Okay?
Some people say, "Oh, Shkreli, you're short. Does that mean you like it when a company fails?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to see any company fail." Wrong. I do want to see Humacyte fail. Fuck that company. Yeah, I said it. What you gonna do about it? Yeah, Rinvoq is upadacitinib. That's AbbVie's big seller. Okay. So here you have clinical remission of 9 to 20% with none for placebo. And then you have endoscopic remission, which is seemingly a less of a hurdle. So I go with the stricter hurdle. But the details matter, because if you're, if one drug has 25% remission, but if you look at the exact, definitions, then that's very different, from another drug. It's a lot more lenient, then you have to consider that. So, but it certainly, at first blush, it doesn't look like there's a gigantic difference here. Still, it's interesting because, it's a disease where basically there's still a lot of unmet need. I mean, if you're given a drug and only 25% of patients have remission, that's an interesting disease to target, because, well, that's 80% of the patients not getting better. Now, if you take 3 or 4 of these bad boys in a row, maybe there's a chance that you can do the math that you will get into remission, but will you stay in remission is still another question. Oh, I love that. An NLRP3 inhibitor. Is that a real NLRP3 inhibitor or a fake one? Let's see. Oh, a Roche? Well, maybe. Selnoflast. I'm curious how it was discovered. NLRP3 is one of these holy grails, so it's very hard to drugify. Really, really tough to actually no treatment difference. So I'm very curious about that. Okay. The only known paper on that drug. Put that in our Roche model. So as you can see, you really have to be willing to build an encyclopedia of medicine to understand all of the different mechanisms, all of the different drugs, all the things people have tried. It's hard. I'm going to probably build some tools on Godel to help with that, but it's still, it's about you. How much work do you want to put in? How interested in this stuff are you? To me, medicine's fascinating. To you, it might be boring. To me, I don't have IBD. I barely know. I think I know a couple people that do have Crohn's. And I know one person that has UC. I haven't talked to in a long time. But it still fascinates me that there's 100,000 people maybe more. I think a lot more, actually, that have this terrible pain from an autoimmune condition that's just vicious. And despite our best attempts, there's billions of dollars at stake here. Greedy pharma companies putting their best scientists on this can't get better than 25% remission. You know, that's fascinating. What is going on in this disease, this autoimmune disease, that is so hard when we have other treatments that are much, like look at MS, much, much better diagnosis? Why? That's fascinating to me. I think that's really interesting. And you know, you could make billions of dollars if you figure out why, and you could just read papers all day. You might say, I have an idea. Let's try that. It's been under our nose this whole time. Happens all the time. Where is Entyvio? Okay, so this is Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. I think this is considered one of the best drugs. This is a trial that compared it with the legendary Humira. 17% versus 7%. Okay, so this is, now we're getting somewhere. Entyvio did 17% remission versus 7% for Humira. And that was, you know, probably a Takeda funded study, but still. Now we get a sense for TNFs, which were the first ulcerative colitis drugs, got you 7% remission. That's awfully low. 7% ain't much. And then the newer drugs kind of got you 10 or 15%. Now maybe we're headed to the 20% area. So this is the Gebos score for ulcerative colitis. So Gebos remission definition. And then there's some other definition perhaps. Histological remission. So this could be, again, a little bit more of a strict definition of remission. I don't know. Here's clinical remission. And this is all fucked up. This was saying 16.5 versus 9% for placebo. So it kind of feels like maybe that was, again, placebo subtracted, still single digits. All right, so I think we have a sense for what the UC world looks like. Yeah, this one was... This is another drug I'd followed for a long time. It's a really old drug. But this was a Roche drug. You probably could have bought this drug from Roche. It was so old. But it was lying around and really a nice medicine. Got targeted in my ass. Etrolizumab. And now they finally ran their own phase 3s after seeing how much money Takeda was making in Crohn's. So here's their UC study. Like I said, UC and Crohn's are pretty similar. And they had 19% remission versus 7% for placebo. Okay, so I think I got a good sense for the ulcerative colitis landscape. And again, you might go to an ulcerative colitis website. You might, you might try to get the disease yourself just to see how... Okay, maybe that's a little far. Okay, I want to see this one too, though. Because this has Remicade.
Is this maintenance? All right, whatever. We did some other time, but that's a good start. S&P dropping a bit here, down 65 basis points. Our portfolio, $30,275, just under 1% positive. We sold all our HIMs. We shorted a little bit more of the quantum computing stocks, which are positively performing today, strangely. Let me see what AbbVie's earnings multiple is here. 15 times and 13 times. AbbVie might be the answer. I like AbbVie. Now, they spent a lot of money on a schizophrenia drug that's not going to pan out. But they take a lot of swings and misses. You know, I like that management team. They're very willing to make mistakes, which many other big pharmas, they just don't do that. I always love talking to those guys because they're in it to win it. They act like they're owners, which is rare. And that's why they're the number 2 biopharma in the world. And they did it without GLP. Have they said they don't want a GLP? Let me check. Let's Google that. AbbVie GLP-1. Let's see. Okay, they looks like they did a deal. They did a small deal recently. Did we miss it? They did a tiny deal, but that means they could still do a bigger deal. Oh no, we didn't miss this. We saw this. 350 million bones. That's a lot for an upfront. Gubra is the name of the company. Oh, right. This was the amylin drug. So that means AbbVie doesn't have a GLP-1. And it's obvious they're going to need one. If they're doing amylin, amylin's kind of a sister drug. Sister target to GLP-1. So if AbbVie's doing amylin, they probably want to do GLP-1. They don't have a GLP-1 in the pipeline, so they need to buy one. So if they're going to buy one, are they going to buy Viking? Are they going to buy Structure? Could they buy something from the big pharma that doesn't want their GLP-1 anymore? Can they buy something from an Asian company? That's happening a lot more recently. Those are all sort of options. It's so funny to me that AbbVie is so big that they could buy Pfizer and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It used to be the other way around pretty dramatically. Okay, so this is Roche's Herceptin, which is one of Roche's first drugs, really one of Genentech's first drugs. And this is a Bangladeshian generic. Not something we're interested in. Von Willebrand type 3. You got to check every one of these drugs in the pipeline. Why is Roche doing a von Willebrand type 3 observation cohort? There's no drug in here. But they're not doing it for their health. They must have a drug in the von Willebrand type 3. Von Willebrand disease is a bleeding disorder. It's kind of like hemophilia.
A little less severe, I think. Okay, well, what about this one? RO7673396. I think I've gotten into some fights with this guy. I just thought of him as a younger dude, too. Doesn't look like he's very young. 27 years of experience. I'm pretty sure I've threatened him with physical violence. Okay, so you got a KRAS inhibitor here, which was obvious from the clinicaltrials.gov description. But it, may not be a KRAS inhibitor technically. But you never know what you can find on the internet. Sometimes a molecular structure will be leaked. Sometimes you could find them in patents and things like that. You never know. But for now, we don't know what this drug does, technically. Looks like it could be a KRAS inhibitor. Or a RAS inhibitor. We don't know. But let's put it down on our list. And you can see just how many drugs these big pharma companies have. Okay. This is a PET imaging study of a drug I don't know called ralmitarant. Ralmitarant. And it makes me wonder if that's a cannabinoid drug. Because there are other drugs that have that, cannabinoid drugs that have that name. So let's see. Ralmitarant. Looks like they terminated it, and it was a TAR agonist, not a cannabinoid. TAR1. Now, you'd have to go to your psychiatry section. It's like Seprecor, which is Daiichi Sankyo, is doing a similar clinical trial. TAR is a trace amine associated receptor. It's been drugged before. It's been tried to be drugged before. It's not been very fruitful. So maybe Daiichi has something, but maybe they don't. And they do bigger phase 3s that may see nothing. But schizophrenia is still one of the largest unmet medical needs, by far. So yeah, let's not be lazy. Let's go to our psychiatry, which apparently have not updated in years. We've got schizophrenia. Well, there's a lot of psychiatric diseases. I've listed them all here. There's probably more than this. And let's see, in schizophrenia, I had TAR down here as a mechanism. But let's see if I had a medicines and investigational. I guess I'd put this in investigational, even though there's a sort of a failure was RO. Roche is weird. They have two code names. So that was not confusing enough. RO7906, or it was RG7906, and then RO6889450, and this was ended up being named Ralmitaront for schizophrenia, and it was a TAR inhibitor or TAR agonist. Let's see. Somebody tried it. Oh, that's there's the TAR agonist. So this must have been a TAR agonist too. I don't think it's in active development, but I could be wrong. So they saw a big benefit there, but I don't think they're going to see it again. And it was a partial agonist. So agonists are very different from antagonists. Agonists are a little more special. Hard to make an agonist compared to antagonists. Antagonists are a little easier. Agonist means you're activating the receptor. That's a little tricky. So they did this study. It's over. So I would say it's not being actively developed for now. But I don't know. And now you see the same drug that we looked at earlier, 0121 for MASH. There is a study here that they're doing for atopic dermatitis, which is also known as eczema. So that's interesting. I want to make sure we don't have 7906 in Roche model. Let's see. TAR, skits. Okay. I also want to have like a master section here for drugs, in addition to psychiatry. So one of the problems with doing this is you have a lot of data overlap, and an ontology could be quite helpful. Who does ontologies? If there was only a software company that could help me make these ontologies, I'd be so happy. But they would have to work with Excel. Somebody should do that. Okay. So I'm showing you kind of what it would be like if you were going to be a biopharma analyst nonstop, which I don't have the time to do. I wish I did. There's a couple of people who want to work full time to help me do that just for you guys. I think that could be a good idea. I'm considering it. But, it is not my main goal to sell investment research. Okay, screening for heart failure. Alectinib is an older drug. That's funny. La Roche-sur-Yon in France is a city, so it's going to come up every time I look for Roche. And then I have to look up Genentech too, because Genentech is sort of a part of Roche, but they might file their own clinical trials. So this whole thing is a mess. It's going to take forever. There's 0121 again. I mean, they did buy this thing for $7 billion, so I mean, it's not surprising that they're doing some clinical trials. But that's a lot of clinical trials. They're doing everything. Oh my God! What's that? Market's closed. That's my Thinkorswim. Has the stream stopped or something? Stop yapping, Martin. None of this shit matters when the companies are all run by grifters. Sounds like you need some schizophrenia medicine yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you need to get rid of sideburns. Shaving. How would you even get autoimmune disease? That's a big question. Period over period. POP is period over period. I don't like it. I mean, it's really sequential growth or QOQ. I think the problem is that you do have half year growth in certain markets. Who let the dogs out? I have 3 chickens here as well. If you guys want to meet the chickens sometime, I think I can arrange that. We used to have 12 chickens. All right, well, sorry about the abbreviated stream today. Again, I'm dealing with the sunlight, I'm dealing with all kinds of shit. So, we made some adjustments. We sold the hymns. We shorted a little more quantum computing. Perry was trading like near cash value or maybe below cash value, and they had a real business. So I thought that was interesting. I'm going to look at it again. Yeah, sunlight's really bothering me. All right, guys. I'm going to take off. I'll see you tomorrow, bright and early, and I'll have the sunlight fixed, and we'll have a nice long session like we normally do. Sorry about this half day, or less than half day. Half of it spent trying to get rid of the sun. Anyway.